Okay, so I have lost track of how many versions of this video I've tried to make. Actually, originally I wanted to make a vlog style, what's going on in my life video for every term of the grad school year, and then the summer research project situation. But it turns out that I vastly overestimated the amount of content I could create while also in grad school full-time and working. So I couldn't find the right words, and I still don't know if they're quite right. And also, the world is falling apart, as per usual, but in very specifically severe ways. So this just feels so dumb to put out there. This video has also been totally paralyzing because I feel, for some reason in my brain, it feels like I can't put other stuff out into the world until I update you on how this year went. So I have 5 half-made videos waiting in the wings for me to just put this video out there. I mean, this is how I feel about every video to some degree, but this one, I think is worse because it's about me and not about a science topic. Yeah, I just always feel like it's not good enough, and by the time I've spent days, writing and filming and editing it, I'm literally no one is interested in this. Why would anybody want to hear from me about this? So just an FYI, that's what's going on in my head with literally every single video. Love that for me. But I finished it because I knew that I wouldn't be able to make other stuff until this was done. And I'm just telling myself it's really just for me as sort of a memory box of this past year. And, from a very specific perspective that is not all encompassing. Anyway, the point is, if you're interested in a more emotional, poetic retrospective on what the year and a half has been like for me, I don't know why you would be interested, but that's what this is.
And I now present this fucking thing.
Ever since I can remember, I've had this funny, recurring thought. It pops up totally at random, and usually isn't prompted by anything in particular. But it's a voice inside my head that suddenly just says, I want to go home. But sometimes I am at home when this happens, or I am enjoying where I am and what I'm doing. And also, I have no idea what this voice means when it says home. I guess for most of my life, I've been trying to find home, or at least figure out what that means to me, this longing for a word that I can't even properly define. I think London comes the closest to feeling like home, maybe because it's the first place I lived by myself, the first place I chose entirely for myself, and my life here is truly mine. When I left the US to come here, I said goodbye to my wonderful family, and to a land that was on fire. I also said goodbye to a part of my life that was filled with really hard and scary things that left me feeling numb, lost, and tired. I landed in an eerily still and silent city, one that felt like it was frozen, waiting for something. I have always loved how London feels like a place that's caught between layers of time, little snatches of different centuries peeking out at you from a storefront or a ruin in between towering glass modernities. I'm one of a small club of people, I think, who can say for certain that 2019 was a much harder and scarier year than 2020, which is saying something. With all the turbulence of moving across the ocean, the end of a relationship, a new country, a new career trajectory, it's like the stillness and forced interiority of 2020 gave me space to stop just free-falling and to get my bearings a little bit. I know that's not the case for so many out there, and I know that I'm really, really lucky, and I'm grateful. As the academic year started, I threw myself back into school mode, wrapping myself in a protective blanket of busyness because that's what feels safe and comfortable. The autumn passed in a blur of lectures, seminars, note-taking, studying, lab sessions, wrapping my mind around habits and subjects and this whole microscopic world that I hadn't delved into this intensely in years. And I worked.
So excited to announce that Seeker's podcast Surprisingly Brilliant is back for season 2.
I made videos, explored more partnerships, and worked on telling stories that I have always wanted to tell. And in many ways, without even really knowing it, I was making and remaking my idea of myself, too. I made new friends.
America says hello.
And stayed connected to old ones. And I found an immense amount of joy in being intentional about connecting with the people in my life who are important to me. And I have missed, and still do miss, my family. But we did make new memories together, even while far apart.
You are so accomplished and beautiful. I heart you.
Aww.
1 year passed into the next, and I spent a lot of time by myself. And it did feel good. Really good. It's a fine line between loneliness and liberation, but I think I'm on the right side of that line. Most of the time. I needed that time to recalibrate, refine my center, come back to myself, and back into my body. One thing that helped with that is that I walked. As spring came to London in fits and starts, I walked further and further in a new direction every week, with no particular destination, just the goal of seeing something that I hadn't seen before. I feel like I got to know the city, kind of like a friend. Summer came and went, classes finished, and I took on the hardest academic task I have ever had in designing my own project, conducting my own research, and writing up a scientific thesis. And as the city bloomed, I felt like I did too. I stopped feeling quite so scared of the world's possibilities. I ventured a little further from home base. I saw some gorgeous new places, and it kind of felt like the warmth of the sun was saying, "You made it. You can stop holding on so tight to the hard stuff. It's okay." I've learned so much about the tiny things in and on our bodies, their incredibly intricate and specific inner workings, and how we can make people better when the invisible makes them sick. And I learned even more just how much I love learning, how stretching my mind in new ways feels so exciting if you let it, and practicing not feeling scared or sad about what I don't yet know, and instead letting myself feel excited about how much there is still to discover. And I've learned even more how to learn, which is a skill in its own right. I challenged myself again as a teaching assistant in the lab where I had just been a student myself. I got word that I passed my course and my dissertation was up to par. And then I found myself asking, now what? I'm someone who can feel a little unmoored without structure, a little lost. So staring down this new adventure, taking on content creation full-time and totally shaping my own future, does feel daunting. But looking back on my time in London so far, I've learned to take on challenges with more joy and less fear. And now that I feel like I can breathe again, I feel more and more that as I move through the world, every tiny piece of it holds so much potential. And I'm trying to savor every moment because I feel so lucky that the life I get to live now is the one I've always wanted. And no, I still don't have one home, one place whose name will always be my answer when people ask, "Where are you from?" But I feel at home in myself again. More than ever, I think. And I know how to keep cultivating and building that. So, thanks for coming along for the ride so far. And here's to adventures ahead. I've got lots of plans. I'm glad you're here.